Down this hall, inside this room, is a broken woman who is hiding away from the chaos of her insanely abusive husband. For at least a decade now, while dealing with the high, stressful demands of the entertainment business, she's been battered by her husband, and the beatings have been getting worse of late. And not only has he been physically attacking her every chance he gets, he's also emotionally abusive as well as financially. His jealousy of his extremely popular wife has overshadowed him in what he felt he started. He made her, or so he thinks, so he's to do as he pleases. And the fact that he's been using substances has amped up his jealousy, paranoia, and abuse towards her. This has been happening for so long. She's been weak, she's been weary, but not anymore. Someone, a friend of hers, has introduced her to something that has given her strength. Chanting, Buddhist chanting, and the chanting has given her inner peace and inner strength that she didn't even know she had or could conjure up. But now that she's amped up her confidence in chanting, he's ready to start a fight. But this time she's ready to fight back. The question is, will she win?
Anime, sing the song like I told you to sing the song. Anime, sing the damn song like I told you to sing the damn song. Anime, sing the song. Martin! Ike must have gotten me for a second.
Of an abusive husband. Now, hear his side of the story in Ike Strikes Back.
You must understand that a vicious backhand cuts out all the land. What the problem is? It's always the thrill of beating her till I can score some crack. The physical. Now you claim I cracked your jaw. Now you're a big star, and I'm parking car. Oh, you done lied, nothing's true to it. You done lied, I didn't beat you with my boot, no. I'm planning to come back, gonna show everyone. Not to say I'm insane, but I'm just too go. I'm an on-road big shot, and it hasn't been fun. Cause I'm me, your legs are sexy. I can get your monkey ass on the run. Oh, uppercut to the gut. Yeah, Tyson.
I think that's your new nanny, kids.
Move over, Mrs. Doubtfire. There's a new brother in town, and he's ready to do some butt kicking.
What the problem is?
It's Ike Turner in Mrs. Ikefire. He's out of luck, out of money, and just plain out of his mind.
You must be Mrs. Ike. I'm Tina.
Oh, now you must think Miss Ike don't know who you is. I mean, of course I know who you is. You used to sing with that handsome Ike Turner fella, didn't you?
Yes.
I'm gonna teach you about respect.
How those knuckles look familiar?
Well, now you know, Miss Turner, I'm gonna take that as a compliment. Thank you. Help, Miss Ike needs some help. Help! You stepping to me? Don't be hitting on Miss Ike, lady. I teach you, Tina. No.
All right, turn up, baby, no, I don't play. Now eat the cake. Anime said eat the cake. Anime, I'm nice.
Energetic, soulful, dynamic, brave, and above all else, a survivor are only some of the ways to describe Tina Turner. For over 5 decades, Tina Turner has not only dominated the world stage, but has also given immense strength and inspiration to women all over the globe. Her story of trauma to triumph wasn't just her story, but also millions of other women. She was a symbol of hope to so many women who have felt trapped and like there was no way out. But she made it out and did so in a major way. Tina always held her head high in negativity, even when her traumatic life story was made into a joke by the very community that she came from. She showed nothing was going to get her down, not even the main ones intent on doing so. Born on November 26, 1939 in Brownsville, Tennessee, Tina Turner entered the world as Anna Mae Bullock. As the daughter of factory workers and sharecroppers, Zelma and Floyd Bullock, her early years were defined by hardship and neglect. Despite a troubled childhood, she would go on to become one of music's most iconic figures. After moving their family to Nutbush, Tennessee, her parents, Floyd and Zelma, who worked long hours in the factory and the fields, left Anna and her sister Eileen largely unattended often. But it wasn't just the lack of parenting involved, there was also major domestic violence in the home. Her parents' relationship was fraught with violence and instability, often fighting in front of the small girls. Unfortunately, this type of behavior and treatment would seem on par for Anna Mae and her future. Her parents separated when Anna was still young. At the age of 11, Her mother abandoned the family, fleeing from Floyd's abusive behavior and only taking Eileen with her. For whatever reasons, she left Anna behind. After a while, her father remarried and soon left as well, and Anna was sent to live with her grandmother. The experience of abandonment left deep emotional scars that would later resonate in her adult relationships, as well as future strife with her mother. Anna Mae was being raised in a deeply religious Baptist home with her grandmother that didn't sit well with her. The traditions and rules of the Baptist faith stifled young Anna Mae's naturally free-spirited nature. But when she attended a different denominational, sanctified church, it was there where she could come alive. The vibrant, energetic music, the freedom to catch the spirit, and the range of lively expressions allowed her to embrace her love of dancing and music in a spiritual setting. Yet, despite the contrast between the reserved Baptist service and the energetic sanctified gatherings, neither fully resonated with her soul. Anna Mae loved the gospel music, but hated the message and belief that there was a God. She'd learned that her strengths and beliefs came from elsewhere. When she turned 16 years old, Anna Mae's grandmother passed away, and she was finally able to move to St. Louis, Missouri to reunite with her mother and sister. While in school, Anna Mae used her tomboyish ways to excel as a cheerleader and basketball player. She also worked as a home health aide to help her mother pay the bills. Her new life in St. Louis was very mundane, but soon Anna Mae would find the man who'd change her life forever. It was here in St. Louis in 1957 that she met Ike Turner, a musician and band leader of the Kings of Rhythm, at a nightclub. Anna, who was already drawn to music, was mesmerized by Ike's guitar playing and performance. He brought out her musical desires, and she begged him to let her perform with him. For a good while, he had made promises to allow her to sing for him, but always passed her up for more attractive women who had less talent. Finally, after pressure from Anna Mae's sister and the constant begging, Ike finally gave Anna her chance, and she excelled. He was very impressed with her unique voice. He said she sounded like a screaming man, but that he liked it, because that's what made her stand out from the other female singers. This marked the start of their professional relationship. Ike saw Tina's immense talent and knew he could really use her to elevate. He took her under his wing and guidance, and they began to travel their musical act. It took no time for Ike's controlling ways to start. As they started to make progress in their careers, Ike suddenly rebranded Anna Mae as Tina Turner without her consent. He chose the name Tina because it rhymed with Sheena, from Sheena of the Jungle, and because he saw how wild and energetic Anna could get on stage. He felt the Jungle Woman image would fit her perfectly. He trademarked the name as well, so that if Anna Mae ever left him like all his other previous singers had, then he'd just give her stage name to a new one. But he knew that this Tina Turner was really irreplaceable. But he'd never tell her that, though. The two had their first major hit with their collaboration of A Fool in Love, leading to their national recognition. A Fool in Love went to number 2 on the R&B charts and number 14 on the Billboard 100. Following the release and success of A Fool in Love, Ike established the Ike and Tina Turner Revue, which featured his Kings of Rhythm band and a girl group known as the Ikettes, who served as backing vocalists and dancers. While Ike took on the role of band leader, often staying behind the scenes, he maintained strict control over the group. He subjected the entire Revue to a grueling tour schedule, performing for 90 consecutive days at venues across the United States. During the era of the Chitlin Circuit, the Ike and Tina Turner Revue gained a reputation as one of the most electrifying and enduring R&B acts, often compared to the legendary James Brown Revue in terms of sheer musical spectacle. She was seen as the female James Brown. Their highly successful performances also enabled them to play for desegregated audiences in Southern clubs and hotels, breaking barriers and broadening their reach. Because he didn't want to let go of his new cash cow, Ike staked his claim to Tina when he suggested they get married. Things were very messy in this Ike and Tina Turner Revue and the band. Everyone seemed to be everyone else's lover in the circle, and it was creating chaos. Even though the public always thought that Tina and Ike were already married, at 18, she actually had a bit of a relationship with his saxophone player, Raymond Hill, and in the process got pregnant and had his baby, Raymond Craig Jr. Their relationship broke up quickly after Craig was born. Then, sometime in between the rising of their stars, Ike and Tina started to become romantic towards each other, even though it seemed like they did it for more business reasons than not. And for Tina, fear. To make it messier, at age 20, she too had Ike's baby, Ronald, as well as a stage last name. So being a single mother with 2 baby daddies was not going to be a good look for the rising star. Because of such a messy dynamic, Ike just wanted to make sure she was officially his, as well as place a good image on their musical and personal relationship. Tina later recounted in her autobiography, I, Tina, and other interviews that she had little desire to marry Ike, but felt trapped and pressured. Their relationship had already started to be marked by intense control and abuse, as well as his abusive behavior and emotional manipulation that had created a dynamic where Tina felt trapped and unable to refuse his demands. She described Ike's behavior as highly controlling and violent. He isolated her from outside influences, dominated her every move, and threatened severe consequences if she ever tried to leave him. Ike also manipulated her emotionally, convincing her that her career and success were solely tied to his presence and guidance. He used psychological and physical abuse to ensure that she complied with his wishes, reinforcing the idea that she had no choice but to stay. Ike insisted on solidifying their bond through marriage as a definite means of ensuring her loyalty and obedience. And to a fault, Tina was loyal to Ike. Besides, Tina also felt obligated to do so because she'd felt he'd given her an opportunity to do something spectacular in life. He'd helped her to live her musical dreams, so reluctantly, she agreed. Tina Turner described her 1962 marriage to Ike Turner in Tijuana, Mexico, as deeply unsettling and far from what she had imagined a wedding day to be. Instead of a joyful and intimate celebration, the event was traumatic and distressing for her. The ceremony itself was conducted in a quick, impersonal manner at a courthouse in Tijuana. There was no romantic ambiance, no cherished family members or friends in attendance, and no celebratory moments of joy. Instead, immediately after the wedding, Ike took Tina to a live sex show in a brothel, a degrading experience that she described as shocking and humiliating. According to Tina, Ike had a fascination with such environments, like watching people do debaucherous things together in orgies, and he forced her to endure the spectacle. This only further demonstrated his control over her and his complete disregard for her emotional well-being. This disturbing episode on their wedding day foreshadowed the years of abuse, manipulation, and violence that would follow in their marriage. For Tina, it was a profoundly demoralizing start to what became a deeply traumatic chapter of her life, adding another layer to the complex and oppressive dynamic she faced with Ike. Marrying Ike, Tina also became a stepmother to Ike's 2 children from previous relationships, Ike Jr. and Michael, raising them alongside her biological sons. This blended family became part of their complex and turbulent household. After their shotgun wedding, it was back to business, and Ike worked them hard. But it was paying off. The Ike and Tina Turner review was everywhere. They were all over television, music festivals, and they were even on the cover of Rolling Stone's magazine, making Tina the first Black woman to ever do so. One would think with all this sudden success that things would be great, but no, they weren't. Things were horrible. No matter how successful they were getting, their relationship was becoming defined more and more by extreme control, manipulation, and abuse. Ike's jealousy and insecurity were relentless. He was both possessive and threatened by Tina's growing popularity. He felt she was overshadowing him in his band and the very thing that he started. He made her, and he wanted to benefit completely. He subjected her to physical, emotional, and sexual abuse, controlling every aspect of her life, from her performances to her finances. Tina described how he overworked her, sometimes forcing her to perform even when she was gravely ill. Ike's insistence that she perform no matter her physical or emotional state often showed a chilling disregard for her well-being. Tina described times when Ike forced her on stage even when she was physically beaten with swollen eyes, bruises, and other trauma inflicted by Ike's beatings or on the brink of collapse. A particularly devastating incident occurred when Tina was suffering from tuberculosis, a condition that left her weakened and in severe pain. Rather than allowing her to rest and recover, Ike pushed her to perform, showing no compassion for her deteriorating health. He often provided drugs like stimulants to keep her going, exacerbating her physical strain and trapping her in a cycle of dependency and exhaustion. He believed that the show had to go on at any cost. Refusal or hesitation on Tina's part often resulted in more violence, further cementing the oppressive hold he had over her life and career. He wanted to exploit her and sometimes humiliate her as much as possible. He'd do things like make her go on stage in revealing dresses or high mini skirts with no underwear on, and perform fellatio on a microphone while performing slow R&B songs.
Got what I want. 'Cause you got what I want. And you got what I need. And baby, you got what I need. And I want you to give it to me. And I want you to give it to me. Make me say, oh, baby. If you just stay with me and make me say, oh, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, hey, baby.
He tried to prostitute her off to willingly paying audience members dying for a chance to bed the Tina Turner. She recounted that Ike tried to force her engage in sexual acts with other men, including business associates, as a means to advance their careers, control, and degrade her further. Thankfully, she put her foot down when it came to that. She refused to do it. The physical abuse was horrifying. Besides his fists, he'd beat her with many home objects, things such as a metal shoehorn, fire poker, and a boot, and he wasn't opposed to using hangers, telephones, wooden shoe stretchers, as well as belts. Publicly, they appeared to be a successful duo. Privately, she was living in a cycle of fear and violence. The years of abuse took a severe toll on Tina's mental health. In 1968, during a particularly low point in their marriage and her self-esteem, she attempted self-deletion. By then, Tina had suffered years of Ike's relentless control, manipulation, and violence. Her life had become a cycle of fear, overwork, and abuse, with little hope for change. Feeling trapped and hopeless, Tina decided she could no longer endure the pain and abuse. One evening, after returning home from a show, she took 50 Valium pills in an attempt to end her life. She later described the overwhelming sense of despair that led to this act in her autobiography. Tina explained that it was not a cry for help, but a genuine attempt to escape what she saw as an inescapable situation. She felt completely defeated and believed that death was the only way out of Ike's grip. Tina had tried to leave him on multiple occasions, but was always coerced or threatened into staying, fearing for her own life and the safety of her children. The suicide attempt also revealed the level of Ike's callousness. While she was recovering, he showed little compassion or concern, instead focusing on how her absence would impact his performances and their public image. It was yet another sign of how completely he had dehumanized and objectified her, treating her not as a partner, but as an extension of his control and ego. Fortunately, Tina surviving the attempt became a turning point for her, awakening a realization that she needed to find another way out. Though it would still take years for her to fully escape Ike's control, the incident marked a shift in Tina's mindset. She began to understand that she had to reclaim her power, no matter how daunting the path forward seemed, and she would soon find it. Tina found herself searching for peace and spiritual guidance. She was deeply troubled, suffering from depression, anxiety, and the lasting effects of the abuse she had endured. Tina was first introduced to the practice of Nichiren Buddhism and its form of chanting, Nam Myo Ho Renge Kyo, by a close friend named Rhonda Graham. Rhonda had been a practitioner of the faith and introduced Tina to its teachings, which emphasized the power of chanting to bring about personal change and overcome life's obstacles. Tina was drawn to the philosophy of Buddhism, which offered her a sense of inner peace, hope, and a way to gain control over her life. The practice encouraged her to focus on her own potential and transformation, rather than being defined by her past or circumstances. As Tina began chanting, she experienced a deep sense of healing and empowerment. The practice of chanting helped her to regain her mental and emotional strength, giving her a renewed sense of purpose and the confidence to continue her career. It also gave her a powerful sense of self-worth, which was crucial after years of manipulation and abuse by Ike. Ike Turner, who had always been controlling and dismissive of Tina's independence, was deeply threatened by her newfound spiritual awakening. He was frightened by the changes he saw in her. As Tina's spiritual practice grew, she became more self-assured, less dependent on him, and increasingly determined to forge her own path. Ike, who thrived on keeping her under his control, did not understand or appreciate her pursuit of peace and self-empowerment through Buddhism. In fact, he viewed it as a threat to his power over her and even tried to prevent her from practicing. Tina later described how Ike would become angry and try to disrupt her chanting sessions, even mocking the practice. He couldn't handle the idea of her gaining independence and strength outside of his influence. Despite his resistance, Tina's dedication to Buddhism and chanting ultimately became a key factor in her emotional recovery, giving her the spiritual strength she needed to deal with Ike. Buddhism provided her with strength, hope, and a renewed sense of self. It empowered her to redefine her life on her own terms, and that would start sooner than she expected. The turning point in Tina Turner's tumultuous relationship with Ike came in July 1976, marking the moment when Tina snapped and she decided to fight back. By then, Tina had endured years of physical, emotional, and psychological abuse and was on edge, never knowing when Ike was going to act up. The incident occurred as they traveled to Dallas, Texas, for a performance. Tina recounted that during their journey, Ike became violent, as he had on many occasions before. Ike was reportedly enraged over something minor, including how Tina had eaten chocolates given to her by a fan. She had on a flawless white suit and the chocolates melted, and Ike was complaining that the chocolate would get on her suit. She ignored him, and that set him off. The argument quickly escalated into a brutal beating in their limousine, leading to Ike viciously attacking her. This particular episode of violence was one of the worst Tina endured. This beating was brutal, leaving Tina with swollen eyes, a bloodied face, and numerous cuts and bruises. But this time, something inside Tina changed. She decided she'd had enough. Summoning all her strength, she fought back, hitting Ike with everything she could muster. Though the physical struggle was grueling, it marked the moment she refused to cower in fear. When they arrived at the hotel, Tina played it cool. She wanted to keep Ike as calm as possible, doing anything and everything he said. She offered him things and other forms of kindness, but he was so exhausted from their fight, as well as inebriated, that he fell asleep on the couch. Tina went into the bathroom and saw her face and couldn't believe the amount of damage he'd done. And even though she fought back, she knew she couldn't keep going through that. This was her time to escape and leave forever. Tina opened the bathroom door and saw that Ike was asleep, and that's when she seized her chance to escape. Despite being injured, she slipped out of the room, dressed in little more than her bloodied white suit, and with just 36 cents and a mobile credit card in her possession, she fled the hotel. She was desperate. She was so desperate that she literally ran across a multi-lane highway, putting her life in danger to seek refuge at a nearby Ramada Inn. Tina begged the hotel manager for a room, explaining her situation. Recognizing her desperation and the visible evidence of her injuries, they provided her shelter. This escape was the start of Tina's journey to freedom. She filed for divorce shortly after, leaving behind nearly all material possessions accumulated during their marriage. She wanted only her name, the one she had earned through years of performance, even under Ike's harsh control. The escape signaled not just her physical departure, but the beginning of a difficult yet determined fight to reclaim her life and career, free from Ike's influence. After leaving Ike in 1976, Tina faced a series of overwhelming hardships that tested her strength and resilience. She was left with little and had to start over from scratch. She was no longer part of the Ike and Tina Turner Revue, and her professional identity had been largely tied to Ike's control. She was also dealing with the emotional and physical scars from years of abuse, as well as the daunting task of rebuilding her career after the split. Tina's early years as a solo artist were marked by struggle and uncertainty. In the late 1970s, she faced significant challenges in establishing herself without Ike's backing. Despite her undeniable talent, the music industry was largely dismissive of her potential. She found herself performing in small clubs and hotels, often playing to half-empty venues and living in relative obscurity. She also worked as hotel maids and had to couch surf at different friends' homes to survive. She couldn't even see her children, and when she did, it had to be in a well-planned out secret operation. She was also dealing with the fact that Ike had put multiple hits out on her, and she had to live her life in paranoia, constantly looking over her shoulder. Multiple hitmen would come to the homes of friends she was staying with and threaten its safety, forcing Tina to have to flee to another friend's home or cheap motels. While she tried releasing solo albums, they all flopped. Tina was also dealing with a complex mix of public perception. Many in the music industry saw her as damaged goods after the collapse of her marriage to Ike. Her reputation was tainted by years of association with Ike's controlling and abusive behavior. She was broke and had trouble finding her footing, both financially and professionally. She had to rely on not only her friends, but also her inner strength and the power of her Buddhist practice to keep going. She was so down on her luck that she sought help elsewhere, in the form of a psychic. Tina recalled that the psychic told her that she would one day be famous, and that her career would experience a significant resurgence. The psychic's words gave Tina a sense of hope and direction, encouraging her to continue pushing forward despite the many obstacles she was facing. Oh, how right the psychic would be. The breakthrough came in the early 1980s, when Tina found a new sense of creative freedom. In 1984, she released Private Dancer, an album that would become a global success and redefine her career. The album included the iconic hit, What's Love Got to Do With It, which became her first major solo hit and won multiple Grammy Awards. The success of Private Dancer catapulted Tina into the stratosphere of fame and solidified her status as one of the greatest artists of her time. It marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life, both professionally and personally. She had reinvented herself as a solo artist, one with a powerful voice, resilience, and an undeniable presence. Meanwhile, Ike Turner's life took a drastically different path. After their divorce, Ike's career steadily declined. Despite the success he had enjoyed as a musician and bandleader, particularly in the 1960s and early 70s, Ike's personal issues and abusive behavior caught up with him. He faced financial ruin, his substance abuse problems also worsened, and he was involved in various legal troubles over the years. Ike's attempts to relaunch his music career largely failed, and he became increasingly isolated. In 1989, he was arrested for cocaine possession, which led to a prison sentence. Over time, Ike's legacy became overshadowed by his abusive treatment of Tina, and he was never able to recapture the success or influence he once had. Ike continued to struggle with addiction and legal issues until his death in 2007. Tina, on the other hand, became one of the most successful and revered artists in music history. She achieved international fame, won multiple Grammy Awards, and earned the respect of fans and critics alike. Her success as a solo artist symbolized her resilience and the power of transformation. By overcoming years of abuse, hardship, and rejection, Tina Turner not only rebuilt her career but became a symbol of empowerment for countless people around the world. Now, how did the Black community play a role in this? In a lot of ways. Unfortunately, Black people have a nasty habit of making fun of or light of horrific situations. Oftentimes, our community even brags about our lack of empathy or sympathy for crucial situations. We have an even nastier habit of lifting up or embracing horrible people. Tina Turner's resilience in overcoming domestic abuse was, tragically, often met with mockery and insensitivity from various segments of society, including within the Black community. Despite her strength, triumph, and success, her traumatic experiences became fodder for jokes, particularly in the world of entertainment. The pervasive cultural treatment of her abuse reflects broader issues about how domestic violence survivors were perceived and the stigmatization they faced. Tina faced criticism within parts of the Black community. Some perceived her pivot to rock music, a genre historically rooted in Black culture but dominated by white audiences, as a betrayal. Additionally, her relationships with white men and eventual move to Europe were seen by some as distancing herself from her roots. The backlash intensified following the release of the biopic What's Love Got to Do with It in 1993, starring Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne, which portrayed the abuse she endured. Tina's story of survival from Ike Turner's abuse reached a new level of public awareness. The film portrayed the brutal and dehumanizing abuse Tina endured, bringing her harrowing experiences to a wide audience. While many empathized with her pain, others mocked or trivialized her trauma. The comedy world in particular often used her experience as fodder for jokes, compounding her sense of isolation. Shows like In Living Color and Martin featured skits and jokes that mocked or trivialized Tina's abuse. These portrayals reduced Tina's real suffering into caricature and perpetuated harmful stereotypes that downplayed the seriousness of domestic violence. Similarly, the popular sitcom Martin occasionally used references to Tina and Ike in a way that made light of their toxic relationship. Jokes about Ike's abuse and Tina's suffering appeared in casual conversation and comedy routines, making the traumatic aspects of her past seem like entertainment.
I'm sorry, I can't, baby. You see, I was looking down the map you're on, and I really don't remember what happened.
Oh, baby, sure you do. I mean, we're tight, me and you. I mean, you know, like Aspen and Simpson. It's a Bonnie and Clyde thing. Ike and Tina, Gina. Alex.
Then you have rap lyrics that further make light of her trauma. Songs like Beyoncé's song Drunken Love with Jay-Z, he referenced Ike and Tina Turner's abusive relationship in his verse, saying, "I'm Ike Turner, turn up, so wide, baby, no, I don't play. Now eat the cake, Anna Mae." This line was a direct reference to a scene depicted in the film. Ike forcefully shoves cake into Tina's mouth, symbolizing his controlling and abusive behavior. The line was widely criticized for making light of Tina's abuse and for trivializing such a deeply traumatic part of her life for the sake of wordplay and bravado. These types of skits and lyrics often presented Tina's abuse as humor, reinforcing a dismissive attitude toward her pain and, more broadly, trivializing the experiences of countless survivors of domestic violence. This treatment by some within the Black entertainment industry was especially painful for Tina, as it reflected a lack of solidarity and empathy from a community she had been a part of for so long. While she had broken free and reclaimed her life, the public ridicule was a reminder of how deeply ingrained certain harmful attitudes about abuse were at the time. The focus on mocking Tina for her trauma often overshadowed her incredible resilience and strength in overcoming years of violence. And it's not like Ike Turner was shunned, at least not by the Black community. A lot of Black people praise him for his mark on music and creating rock and roll. They even justify his behavior by saying things like, "Tina wasn't innocent, she was no angel," as if one needs to be an angel to not be abused. The men of the Black community certainly don't condemn him or his behavior. and they low-key act like they like what he did and what he represents. But Tina was the one who received all the harsh criticism from the Black community. Tina was viewed critically by some members of the Black community for her career choices and personal life. Her decision to pursue rock music, her relationships with white men, and her move to Europe led some to view her as having distanced herself from her roots. This compounded the mockery, as some saw her abuse and success as detached from the collective struggles of Black America. Her success and crossover appeal in predominantly white spaces also left her vulnerable to ridicule from within her own community, who interpreted it as selling out. With all the insensitivity shown by some entertainers and segments of the Black community during this period shows the societal challenges that survivors of domestic violence often face, I can't really say that I blame her for distancing herself from the Black community. The others didn't treat her this way. While Tina ultimately emerged as a symbol of empowerment and triumph, the ridicule she endured reflected the pervasive trivialization of abuse and a lack of understanding around trauma, which many survivors still grapple with today. It also highlights how Tina's journey, for all its strength, was met not only with admiration, but also with pain from sources she hoped would support her. After years of reaching solo legendary status, seeking peace, Tina relocated to Europe, where she found a level of privacy and acceptance that had eluded her in the United States. She married Erwin Bach, a German music executive, in 2013 after a 27-year relationship. Europe became a haven where she could live away from the scrutiny and judgment that had often marred her life in America. Here, Tina continued to thrive, occasionally performing and releasing music, but largely enjoying a quieter existence. In her later years, Tina faced numerous health challenges. She suffered a stroke in 2013, was diagnosed with intestinal cancer in 2016, and underwent a kidney transplant in 2017 with her husband Erwin as the donor. Despite these battles, Tina remained resilient and reflective about her life, often speaking about finding peace and forgiveness. While she was still here, Tina did receive her flowers. She had multiple tributes done for her, award-winning Broadway play, documentaries, and awards. She'd truly overcome so much. But one thing she wouldn't be able to overcome was her severe illness. And on May 24, 2023, Tina Turner passed away at her home in Küsnacht, Switzerland, at the age of 83. So lurkers, what do you think? Do you think Tina Turner was a sellout? Do you think the Black community making fun of her trauma was okay? How do you feel about the way the Black community treats dire situations? Let me know down below.